Hello and welcome to another episode of Downhill Smooth Tarmac. Let's get technical. And in this episode, we need to talk about bottom brackets, particularly SRAM GXP ones, because they don't last very long. And if you have a SRAM axle of any kind, from Apex to Rival to whatever, I am willing to guarantee that you've had your ride ruined by the dreaded GXP creak. But fear not, SRAM fans, of which there must be some of you. With just my video, some tools and a brand new bottom bracket, I'm going to talk you through how to take out the creaky one, grease it up and put the new one in. Stay tuned to fix that creak. Roll the credits. Okay, so before we get started, what tools are you going to need? So, not that many. You're going to need an 8mm Allen key. First of all, for extracting and refitting the cranks. For the finished result, you're going to need a torque wrench, also with an 8mm Allen head socket. Torquing these cranks up is really important. If you haven't got a torque wrench, you're going to have to take your chances, but I find that torquing up is pivotal for this. And finally, if that bottom bracket's coming out, you're going to need a bottom bracket removal tool. These are pretty cheap if you haven't got one. Finally, I should say, no matter what tools you've got, if you're not sure about this, go see a professional, get a bike mechanic to do it for you. Okay, so first job, flip the bike around in the stand. I'm just going to drop the chain, because with this being a 1x, first thing I want to do is just take the chain off the other side. There we go. This means we're not going to drop it into the carbon frame or anything like that. First step is going to be to get the old cranks off. And for that, you're going to place your 8mm Allen key in the hole here. It's the innermost bolt you're going for, not the outer one that's bigger. Now this could be really, really tight, which mine is because it's been torqued up. So what I'm going to do is use a bar around the Allen key to apply some force. I've gone for full realism in this video. You may find that it's really tight. That's so tight, we're going to have to do it on the ground. Let's just let go there. So just on the ground, a bit of extra leverage. Bar wasn't needed, it was just a little awkward angle. So next thing you're going to do is unscrew. Keep going till the crank arm comes off. This is what's called a self-extracting bolt. And you'll see that the crank will come off to reveal the bottom bracket behind. While you're here, have a good look and a good inspect around the crank. Make sure it's clean and tidy, and give everything a clean before we put it back on. Next step, we're going to push out the cranks. You shouldn't need a hammer to knock these out, they're not that tight. Again, have a little look at the state of the arm, and you'll find there'll be a washer there as well. We'll leave that in because it's going with the rest of it. Okay, so we're going to start by taking the non-drive side of this bottom bracket out. This is a standard left-hand thread on this side, so lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. You can use the bottom bracket tool. I'm going to apply a little bit of force and release it. I've already broken this loose. Nearly broke my neck doing it. So I slipped. And you just, once that's loose enough, you just undo it by hand. And what you're looking for is the bearing to come out, as well as there may be a sleeve in the middle that will come out with either this side or the other side. There we go. And the cup's in with the other side. Right. Okay, so we're coming close on the drive side, just so you can see just how much dirt accumulates around this part where you don't wash as well, particularly because chops wash this bike last. Anyway, more importantly, the drive side thread is reversed, so right hand thread will loosen it. So we're going to turn this one clockwise to remove it and anti-clockwise to refit it. So normally, if you were going to undo this, you would go that way on the normal thread, and you can see that's tightening. We want to undo, so we're going to place it that way and we're going to act as if we're going to tighten it, but as you can see, it's actually reverse threaded. You'd be pleased to know that when you refit these, you can't go wrong. This will come out with a central sleeve. There we go. Keeps all the dirt and ingress out of the cranks. I'm going to put that to one side, give this all a good clean, and then we're going to refit a new one. Okay, so for the threads, if you've got it, you could use a little bit of anti-seize, something like a copper slip or similar. I actually haven't got any in the workshop at the minute, that's on order. What I tend to just use is a little bit of my Shell aviation grade synthetic grease. I use this for everything, particularly during the winter, because it tends to last longer than a lot of the cycling specific greases, and it keeps the water out. Just a little bit on the threads, just to stop any seizing. Just going to apply it with the syringe, just like that, just to keep it a little bit on there. And then I'm going to do the same with the new cup. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't got a tool for torquing up these bottom bracket cups. If you've got one, use it. Torquing up to around 25 to 30 newton meters of torque. Like I say, if you've got a torque attachment, do it. If not, you haven't got to go mad. We're just applying a reasonable amount of pressure until that is tight. And do the same for the other side. A little bit of grease, look, just on the threads. If you need to turn the bike around, do it. If not, just pop it in there. Like so. You can tell how many times I've done this because I'm doing it without even looking. In fact, I've had this on one for 2 years now. 2 years, and I'd say probably many thousands of miles. I'd love to tot it up. And this is bottom bracket, maybe number 5 in 2 years. Four I think in 2 years, so 2 a year. One was my own fault. Went through some flooding with Dave, obviously, and I took some water ingress on, and that killed it. So I'll take the hit for that one. But talk to anybody that runs these, particularly in a gravel setting, and they will tell you that they do have this ability to dry out and creak no matter how hard you try. On to the next stage. Okay, so the next step is to fit that drive side crank with the axle spindle. Again, you don't want to be going in dry here, so let's get that grease again. Grease the axle up just a touch. Again, I'm going to go with a slightly bigger syringe for this because I like to put quite a bit of grease on this. Don't go mad, just enough that I know I'm protecting what I've got and I'm keeping the water out. Okay. Now, if you put too much on, it'll all end up on the drive side, it'll just gather. So try and work it down towards the spindles at the other side. Try and get a good amount on where the bearings are going to sit and where this axle is going to spin. Once you've got to that point, push it through. As it gets halfway, just take a little bit of the grease off, any residue, just clean it off. It's not going to do you any good there. Push it in until it stops, check it's moving freely, then we're going to flip the bike round and torque it up. Okay, so we're at that point where we've got the bike turned around, we are going to be putting on that other crank, but before we do, we need that little washer that I told you to keep safe. Before we put that on though, because we're weatherproofing, we're going to add a little bit more of the Shell grease, the aviation grease. You can buy this grease quite cheaply online. I recommend it. I actually bought it for my Bafang motor on my commuter e-bike, and it's actually served as a brilliant, you can get a massive vat of it out of date from the aviation industry and it'll last you forever. What you're going to do once you put that extra grease in there is just pop that dust seal back on over the top. That one's nice and snug actually. Yeah, lovely. You're going to grab your 8mm again and you're going to begin to wrestle this back on. Make sure that the cranks are in the right position before you screw it on, otherwise it could just get embarrassing. You'll know when you've got the spot because it'll start to pull it on. Now what I'm going to do is just tighten it up with the 8mm to about there, and then I'm going to grab a torque wrench and I'm going to set it to between 44 and 52 Newton meters, somewhere in the middle. 52 is about max for these cranks. It is written on the side here, it'll tell you it's actually 54. So 46 to 54. So if we go around 50 Newton meters of torque, that is a lot. So if that isn't going to hold it in place, I don't know what will. Put the torque wrench in once you've set it. And you're waiting for that click. Just keep tightening it. There you go. I don't know how that looked on camera, but it's that click, all important. There we go. With that click done, this is ready. Just check the crank, make sure it's spinning freely. Should be nice and free like that. If there's any resistance, you've gone wrong. But really with these, you can't go wrong. You can't over tighten them particularly. Just follow them like the process I've showed you. And when you're done, it's time to pop your chain back on and spin it up. And just double check that it's all good. And at that, you are pretty much done. And with that, another maintenance task is complete. You can now sit back and revel in what you've achieved as a home mechanic. Your home mechanicry is on point. You are the king or queen of shed tinkerers. Your bottom bracket will no longer creak for easily 2 weeks or so before it gets all SRAMmy again. But seriously, keep the bike clean and keep that greased. Swap the grease out from time to time and it will last. Just keep an eye on it, check those torque specs. And with that, it's time for me to sign off and say that I hope your next ride is downhill with smooth tarmac. Your wheels spinning, keep your rubber on the road, keep your knobblies on the trail. Be safe, look out for each other. Remember the nod, cyclist to cyclist, we got each other. If you get a minute, like and subscribe, but don't let that get in the way of you riding your bike. Until next time, thank you.